everyone, it's Lisa here with you today on the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel. Today we're going to be making a card using Beautiful Mind and Happy Hello. Both of these sets were released in the Merakisummer release a month or so ago. And we're going to start off by stamping the hydrangea stamp twice. I'm going to use Memento Tuxedo black ink as I'm going to be doing a little bit of Copic colouring. I'm using £80 Nina Solar White cardstock and I am double stamping just to make sure that I get a really crisp image. So we're going to start off by doing some colouring. I'm going to colour just one of the images for you on the video today, and I'm going to begin with the leaves, and I've changed my Copic combination. You can see the lids there. I would normally have YG03 in this combination, but I've switched it out for YG25 today. My YG03 is really full. I just refilled it and I've overfilled it, and I didn't want the Copic to blob on the screen, so I've just changed it out to this combination, which works equally as well. And I have sped this up a little bit, but I'm starting with my darkest colour, YG17, blending it out with YG25 and then finishing it with YG01, and I do that on all of the leaves, and I just use YG17 for the stem. And I'm going to use a little bit of colourless blender here. I did get some green outside of the lines. It's always difficult when I'm filming because I can't get over the image like I normally would. So I have made a few little errors with the green. So I'm just using that to get rid of those. And I'll probably need to use it twice just to fully get rid of that excess colour. So starting with our flowers now, I thought I would try a new combination for me. On the website I did this card with pink flowers, but I thought I would try and get that beautiful purpley blue that you sometimes see hydrangeas come in. So I'm starting off with a dark purple in the middle, that's BV13, and I'm just using a tiny bit of BV02 to blend out, and then I'm going over the whole petal on each part of the flower with B01. And these are really small colouring areas, and I probably could have got away with 2 markers. Maybe if I was to do this again, I would just use the BV02 and the B01, or I maybe would even switch out to a B00 just to get it a little bit softer. But I still like how it turned out, even though it was a bit more vibrant than I thought it would be. Just working my way through each individual flower, and actually as I move on I do a little bit less purple, so there's a bit more blue on show. But I absolutely love hydrangeas. We have several of them in our garden and I'm going to be adding some more. So I've finished the colouring now. I've done both of the flowers, and I'm just going to take the coordinating paradise and run those through my die cutting machine. And moving on to our background now, I'm going to use the Happy Hello set. I think this single floral image is so beautiful, and I thought I would repeat stamp it to create my background. So just removing that from the packaging and lining it up to see where I want that to sit. I've got some neutral grey cardstock in my MISTI, and I'm going to be heat embossing. So first of all, I'm going to prepare my panel by running an anti-static powder bag over it. This will help prevent any excess powder sticking where I don't want it to. And I'm now going to ink up the stamp and press that down onto the card panel. And because I'm going to repeat stamp with this one single image, I am going to clean it off in between just to make sure that there is no ink on it as I reposition it further down the panel. And as you can see, it almost covers the whole panel just with 2 stamps, but I do flip my panel over and just fill in that small area at the bottom as well. So when I was choosing this stamp, I wanted to make sure that you could see plenty of detail around the outside of the panel. The middle of the panel is going to be covered up slightly, but the edges are going to be on show. So I wanted to make sure that the stamp was detailed enough and the floral image was kind of small enough that it would show up better around the outside. This is of course a really good way of getting extra use out of your stamps, particularly if you don't have a suitable background stamp. And I'm just filling in that last corner there just to make sure that I've got a little bit of detail there. You really don't have to be super precise about this. It's really just about having some extra interest in the background. Now that we've finished our stamping, I'm going to take some white detail embossing powder and apply that over the top. I really like the fine embossing powder for this kind of detailed stamp and also for sentiments as well. So just applying that and knocking off the excess, and I'm going to heat set that off camera. And here it is with the powder melted. You can see how pretty and delicate it looks. I almost think it looks a little bit like a lace panel. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I've added some foam tape onto the back, and I'm just going to remove the backing from that. And I'm going to adhere this down onto a top folding note card. And just making sure that I've got a really even border around the outside before I press that down. Moving on now to the rest of the card. Off camera I got some vellum and I die cut it with a nesting oval die, and I'm just placing that down over my background panel there, and I'm going to tape it down with some low tack tape. This is just going to help me keep everything in place while I try and work out exactly where I want my 2 flowers to go. So just moving them around until I'm happy with how they look, and I've added some foam tape onto the back of them, so I'm going to start to actually adhere them down on top of the vellum. The addition of the vellum panel really does help draw your eye towards the flowers. It creates more of a focal point, I guess. I mean, it's translucent enough so that you can still see the background behind it, but it mutes it and softens it and brings your eye into focus, I think, on the flowers, and you still get all that beautiful detail around the outside of the oval. I've got foam tape on both of the flowers, so I needed to make sure that only the right side of the second flower had tape on it. As they do overlap slightly and kind of nestle together, I had to just pop it up on one side. So we're going to work on our sentiment now. This is the Hugs and Kisses sentiment from Happy Hello. And I've white heat embossed that onto some black cardstock off camera, and I'm just going to place that down now so that it sits astride the stems. Now that everything is added onto the vellum panel, I can add my adhesive onto the back. So I'm adding it behind the flowers and the sentiment. This is going to make sure that when I stick it down, you don't see any of the glue through the vellum at all. It's all hidden by the sentiment and the flowers. And I'm just wiggling that around a little bit there to make sure that the sentiment is straight. To finish up the card, we're going to add a little bit of sparkle. I'm using the Fairy Garden Meraki sparkle mix today, another beautiful mix of gems. These are kind of silvery iridescent. Again, they come in lots of different sizes, and I've actually added them onto my vellum oval, so you don't have to watch me work out where to place them. I'm just going to add tiny dabs of glue behind them. I'm really being careful here, as I really don't want to get any excess glue coming out from the outside of the gems, because it is on vellum. So that finishes today's card. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed seeing the card come together, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'll be back with another video for you next week, but in the meantime, I hope you have a lovely weekend.